Welcome to the podcast. Most people don't, but you do. We are thrilled to have Candice Gaddy join the show. She's a strategic growth architect, a speaker, and a founder of the ACE ecosystem, where she helps leaders align strategically, connect to the right opportunities and systems, and expand their impact intentionally. There are so many things that I want to speak to, but most importantly, welcome to the show, Candice.
Thank you so much for having me, Bart.
Strategic growth architect. How would you describe that, Candice? We had the pleasure of chatting a couple of times before, but this is new for our listeners. How would you describe what a strategic growth architect is?
It's all about, I would say, if you wanted to keep it simple, one simple word would be intentional. Because as you and I talked before, I think a lot of people are trying to figure out growth. They're doing a lot of quote unquote networking. They're seeing no results from it. So, where I come in, we created the ACE framework, which is aligning your strategy and structure and then connecting to the right opportunities and systems. A lot of people intentionally, really, they don't even align to where they're trying to get to. But then when they get to the connection part, instead of just focusing on the opportunities, oftentimes they need to start with the systems and the structure. Because I heard someone say here recently, even if you're pouring a cup of coffee, if you don't have the right structure and container to hold, that coffee is useless. What we come in and do is first make sure you're aligned to the right team, give yourself that clarity that you need for your vision, and then make sure that we strategically connect you not only to the systems, but to the opportunities and people that make the most sense for where you're going. Then with that E is we help you expand and scale intentionally.
And what I love about your approach, it's simplistic, but I've never heard anyone describe it just as you're describing it. I'm trying to think, Candice, about application for your philosophy and your structure for me. And this is something that I've learned recently. Tell me if this is aligning. I could meet somebody and exchange business cards, and that could be it. As an example, we were flying home yesterday from the West Coast in Hawaii. We were visiting my daughter over there, and there was a gentleman waiting in line, and he had a Penn State shirt on. I said, is it appropriate if I say we are? And that's just a saying that people say if you're a Penn State. We are, of course, Penn State. When did you go? Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, the gentleman wrote a book about the history of the buttons that people would wear to the Penn State football games. He got it published, and this was back in the early 80s and very popular and a very famous book. I let it go. It was like, oh, well, cool. I went to school there. I coached volleyball at the local high school. Oh, we went to the local high school. But I just let it there. Didn't exchange business cards, but it probably would have been interesting for me to learn more about him. Is that an example that maybe I didn't have the right intention or the right philosophy of everyone that you meet could be an opportunity to enhance each other's lives? What are your
Absolutely.
thoughts?
That's that relationship capital that most people don't really truly optimize. And it has to be prime and in the moment. First of all, you have to always keep what matters to you in front of you. And whatever it is that matters to you, if you see someone, you see that alignment too, that has that same alignment as you, what can I strategically and intentionally and also with the human approach, which you did that part very well. I went to North Carolina A&T. We always say Aggie pride. When I say Aggie, I'm like Aggie pride. We all scream it from room to room. We always say that Aggies do. I usually use that as my intake to create a conversation and say, hey, what are you doing now? What are you working on now? And so making it connect to always be more focused on being interested than interesting. What's going on with you? How can I help you? How can I support you? So focusing on that value add first. I think once you start to build that relationship, from there, things just naturally flow. Hence the relationship of how I'm even on your podcast today.
I really appreciate what you just shared. My intention when I meet anybody, I never want to appear that I need anything from anyone, if that makes sense. I'm very sensitive to that because I've met so many people in my life that it was very obvious that they were looking for something from me. I'm looking for a business card just to share with you quickly. On my cards, Candice, when we give our cards out, can you see this image?
Bamboo.
I present a card. I lead with this first as a gift. Some of them say kindness and greatness. There's an acronym or a saying that is my attempt to share something with you. Here's an acronym about bamboo, so you can remind yourself to be flexible next time when things are difficult. And I said, and if you want to know about us, my information is on the other side. I always try to be intentional that I don't want anything or need anything from you. I'm going to lead with a gift first. If there's ways that we can communicate together, here's my information, my email address. And I'm curious, my my awareness or my sensitivity is that there have been so many people that just want something from me. They want to sell me something, they want something. I believe I'm probably too sensitive to the fact of I want to give. I don't then ask what perhaps we could do together. How would you help someone like me with all the things that you know? Is that an okay approach? Or should I be then saying, well, who do you know and how could you help me? Tell us, what is your thought process with that as the ACE ecosystem?
I would say give yourself the grace to pause and make sure that when you're having a conversation, we talked about a second ago, be more interested. Those curious questions, figure out what they're trying to service, connect it to what you're trying to service. And then typically it organically creates itself that, hey, you're focused on this, I'm focused on that. How can we help each other? So that conversation just naturally evolves as opposed to you trying to make it overly pitchy and salesy. Oftentimes, if we're too focused on what it is that I'm trying to get done. We're literally trying to do a formula. I have a finance background. So my background is always 1 + 1 = 2. So when you're keeping everything mathematical, it doesn't always add up that way when you're speaking to a human person. Giving yourself the moment to read the room, being relational enough to realize, hey, this person needs a moment. I do a lot of work here in the city of Charlotte on the politics side as well. And in doing that, what we find is when I'm trying to help businesses get resources that they need to grow, oftentimes they're just struggling and they just need someone to vent to in the moment, and I give them that breath and that moment to say, have your moment based upon what you said. You really think, and that's where oftentimes I see Bart, people think they're aligned and they're not aligned. When you give them that moment to breathe and to vent, you really find out that you are unaligned. And how can I get you back aligned to the right thing when you're clear headed? Because oftentimes we're carrying so much stuff, especially as entrepreneurs, we're trying to do too many things at one time and we're not doing anything successfully. So, what I really try to focus on, and I would tell anyone to focus on, is in the moment, be present and intentional with the person that you're talking to. Don't just make it be about what you're looking for or what they're looking for, but
Yeah.
organically, how does this relationship evolve based upon figuring out where I am and where they are as a human? I think with AI, a lot of us have really lost that touch of humanality just because we're so focused on automating everything, making everything microwavable and simple when we really need to just take the time to have a conversation.
Just have a conversation. That's it. I don't need anything from you.
Mhm.
I don't want anything from you. I just want to get to know you. To know you, then maybe I can help you. If
Mhm.
we get to know each other, maybe we can help each other.
Listen for that alignment, not just the opportunity.
Fantastic. When did you start ACE?
I started ACE in 2018.
You see that there was a need for it? What prompted you to start it?
That's the journey of life, and this is something that I've been teaching a lot lately, Bart, is I want people to start really experiencing life versus just living it. You know my story of what happened to me health-wise. I had a stroke and a brain hemorrhage in 2018. Totally unexpected. I had done every other check mark that I was supposed to do. So when life happened and the trajectory of my life changed, I had to really sit down in it and give myself that graceful pause to say, where do I really want to go next? I built these skill sets. How can I serve others? And that's when I realized I wanted to start building my own business. I started off really aligning myself, which is where the framework came from, is I immediately thought, "Hey, I just need to be a profitability coach or consultant," because that's what I had done for Fortune 500 companies for decades. Really, as I got into it, I really realized my true magic, which is why I teach the alignment. I have a tool that's called the ACE Alignment Mirror to help people really align and see what's uniquely within them. But what I really saw was that my true skill set is that I'm a bridge and I'm a connector of relationships. And so that's why I first started with the framework of aligning and then connecting and helping people do it in a way that's much more strategic and most importantly, more sustainable.
Fantastic. Can you share any, without giving away names, any success stories of individuals or organizations you were able to help with your ecosystem?
I've done a lot of work, not just within the city, but also I've come in lately. My new thing is I've even gone into churches. What I'm doing now is actually embedding myself into ecosystems. I'm going into churches, I'm going into schools, I'm going into corporate America and saying, hey, what's working, what's not working? What I'm doing is a transfer of my skills. Everything that I've done before, I've aligned those skills with now how I can now help other ecosystems to grow. A lot of times you'll find that there's a lot of fragmentations within ecosystems. Even here within the city of Charlotte, there's a lot of growth opportunities, but there's also a lot of silos. It's taken a lot of work and energy for me to break down these silos and to help them to grow and propel. So I'm really focused on embedding ecosystems, making them to grow, but also just making sure that if I find a growth leader and they need some transformation, I'm here to help them transform as well.
What do you think is preventing connection and connectivity and authenticity and alignment?
I
What's
think
your sense?
I think really it is one of the ahas that I've had lately is when we talked about earlier, people not networking well, is the confidence in which you go out into the world and go out into a room. Oftentimes we go into a room and confidence is not ego. I think Carolyn Leaf said this once before. It's about how when you walk in that room, you're confident in yourself. Not saying that I'm better than someone else, but I'm
Mhm.
confident in what I do, which is why everyone needs to start with that alignment of who I am and what uniquely makes me a blessing to serve someone else. So I think for me, it really was taking the time to figure out what that alignment looks like when it comes to myself, and then transforming that over to others and making sure that others see the same thing in themselves.
Wow. Confidence, just so many things that you're sharing. I can think of what I just experienced within the last 2 weeks of being on the West Coast. My wife and I, 30, 40 years ago, lived in California. Love the weather, love the environment. I remember that I was very I'm trying to think of the word. I was a little intimidated by the beauty of the people, just to be quite frank. In Southern California, in our neck of the woods, there were actors and actresses and models, and they all drove $100,000 cars. And it made me very self aware that I wasn't a model, I wasn't an actor, and I was not driving a $100,000 car. I was not necessarily comfortable at that time 40 years ago being in that space 30 some years ago. And it's interesting now when we go back, I'm comfortable in me. I don't need to be a model or an actor and actress. I don't need to drive a $100,000 car. I was so much more comfortable just being in that environment and watching people and looking. We walked into one restaurant and everyone stops to see who is walking into the restaurant. Do I know them? Are they an actor? Are they a writer? Are they a director? Are they public? All of these things. It was just so funny to me. I was no longer intimidated. I was just like, I'm not an actor. I'm a speaker. I have a podcast, but I'm not a publisher. I'm not a director. I'm not going to hire you for a movie. But it was a nice version of being content with me, but I think that took 30 or 40 years to be able to get there. What suggestions would you have for people to be able to find that your authentic self and to be more comfortable with who you are and be confident, not cocky or arrogant? What suggestions would you give them for young folks even today?
That's actually why we actually first of all, I wanna applaud you for doing that because I think a lot of people, especially in this day and age, and specifically the younger generation, they are seeing growth as performance. When they get uncomfortable in those settings, then they start to perform and emulate. It's totally natural for you to have moments that you have, quote, unquote, "the imposter syndrome." How you get out of that is why we created the ACE model, and we really focus on aligning with your assignment, who you really are, and getting connected to your right core advantage. I
Yeah.
think a lot of people, like myself, the story I just told earlier, we default to what we know, we default to what's comfortable. Sometimes even having that accountability partner, having someone like myself or Ace come in and see what structurally is working, what's not working, help you see something that you don't normally see. I wear
Mhm.
retainers sometimes, and it's oftentimes someone want to tell me, hey, Candace, you have something inside your retainer. They're clear. I don't see them. I'm wearing them all the time. Therefore, I don't see it. Someone on the outside can easily come to me and see what it is that I have.
Right.
And
Oh,
when you take the time to have these assessments, talk to the people closest to you, find out the common denominator. Another word that has really stuck out to me lately, Bart, is check your patterns. Also be a continual life learner. I play
mhm.
after I had my brain seizure and stroke, I was diagnosed with epilepsy. So I started doing these brain games on my phone just for cognitive exercise. One of the games that I play is candy sorting. And it's so crazy because I'm a continual life learner. I got Six Sigma, change management, all these certifications. But even when I'm playing a game, I'm looking to learn. I was playing that game, Candy Sorter, and I noticed very quickly that the first thing I needed to do was pause, see the landscape, see what's there. Then also start to see the pattern of what's there. Once I see the pattern that's what there, patterns can be a good thing, patterns can be a bad thing. You evaluate which one it is, then see what move you're going to make that's also going to give you the next vein of opportunity. Every move that you make should be opening a door for another for forward opportunity. And if it's not doing that's not the right move to make. Really just taking that time for the mirror to have that self-assessment and bringing others in that can help you see that if you can't see it yourself.
What wisdom right there. Allow yourself to bring in others, be able to see things that you might not be able to see yourself. How right, it's simple,
It is
but
very
what a great strategy. Why do you think people are hesitant to bring others in to evaluate themselves? None of that language was proper, but you know what I'm asking.
and that's to do with you, Bart, you know that. But I think that especially for us that have been checking boxes for so long, I was one of those people. We wanna feel like we have it put together. Even something as small to me as now because of my health, there's certain things I just absolutely cannot stress about, and because I'm a doer, I'm always in do mode. I don't give myself the grace to pause and really settle into whatever it is. My godfather passed away, I think I told you that last week, a week or so ago, and I didn't deal with it, and I ended up the next week completely crashing. I'm realizing to give myself that grace and realize that we have villages for a reason. Raising kids in
Mhm.
a community, you can't do it by yourself. And that's really one of the main reasons that a lot of businesses are not failing and not scaling and growing is because they're not willing to let someone come in and show them to give them help. They don't want the critique and the feedback. It's there to build you up. But it's finding that right person that you believe that you can trust to show it. I know when I would go into corporations, a lot of them, especially when you get to the financial part, I can tell you
Mhm.
everything else. I can show you HR, but I don't want to show you my numbers. That's why the relationship part of the bridge is so important because they have to trust you and what your intentions are. So I think that really it's hard for people to put the wall down because they want to feel like that they have it all together and need to find that thought partner that they really can trust to get them to what truly matters to them.
But Candace, here's a fake example. But Candace, I work in an environment in which that type of exposure or that type of vulnerability is so regarded upon as weakness. And I'm expected to come in and I'm expected to know everything. And if there's something that I don't know, I would never ever say it. While it's nice to say that I'm going to surround myself and hire people that are smarter than me, in my environment, that just does not work. Candace, what should I do? In
I think
addition to working with you, of course, and your team.
I would say that your default mode always needs to be what matters most. That comes to time management as well because your calendar is very important to you. And that goes back to the patterns. What's on your calendar all the time really reflects what's most important to you and what you value at that point in time. So for me, it is also making sure that when you are having those moments of being guarded, why am I so guarded? That's that self-assessment. Why am I guarded? That's why I believe having that accountability partner that you can know, hey, they're going to be there when times are good. They're going to be there when times are not so good. So you can
Yeah.
trust them and their feedback and just making sure that you're focusing on what really matters. If I do this, what will happen? If I don't do this, what will happen? That decides which way I go. When I'm either trying to do something, trying to preserve my time, it's defaulting back to what matters, what will happen if I do this, what happen if I don't do this. Even when it comes to me deciding, do I need to do this today? Do I need to do this right now? Can I put it off a little bit longer? That default of what matters and what's going to happen if I don't really matters. And that's why when I do a lot of assessments, a major part of the assessment is prioritization. I think that helps people to decide as well once they can
Yeah.
prioritize.
Yeah, and Candace, what I just learned from what your statement was the element of an accountability partner, but an accountability partner that you can trust. That sometimes is external, like your organization, ACE, that would be external to your environment, your political environment, your cultural environment, and whatever your job is. I think that's so important to be able to have someone from an external perspective being able to look at things. Have you run across the people that you're coaching, the organizations that you're helping? Have you ever run across an environment in which you had given them the suggestion, this environment is horrific. You don't need to treat yourself this way. You need to do something else. Has that ever happened?
More times than I want to count, Bart. I think what you just described is exactly why I intentionally went back and got my change management certification because especially when you're dealing with global organizations, a major component of it, honestly, is just culture. That's why you have to really get to know people. Because I thought that, for instance, in Latin America, they were lazy, just not responding. But what I saw is that they actually operate a lot slower. When I physically went there to the plants and had conversations with them, we were able to build a relationship that I understood how they operated, how I operated. When you're doing change management, you have to get everybody on the same page and get them to understand their value in the goal that you're trying to accomplish. So I think that piece of them understanding why you're doing it is what really helped me. But honestly, in the moment, it's really hard because people are stuck. Most people do not like change. I think that's when I
Yeah.
saw.
And so the suggestion that more often than you would like, you were telling people this is a horrific environment. The culture is not for you. The political culture, the situation, the boss, it's not for you. Um, then what is the advice? Is it suck it up and deal with it? Is the advice begin to look for something new? Is the advice there's a big world out there? There's some great companies out there. What is the advice? I know it's different for everyone.
I think the reality is there's gonna be hurdles and challenges everywhere. What's the saying? Grass is not always greener on the other side. Never tuck tail and run. I'm always trying to every trial and tribulation, how can I go through this? Because when you go through it, that's where the learning is versus going around it or trying to jump over it. As I go through this, what am I learning? What can I help this person learn as I'm leading them? Because clearly there's a skill set that we're trying to build right now through this challenge. And so my goal is not to omit the challenge, but really it is how can we both grow stronger and come out better on the other side because of the challenge and still get the goal accomplished.
I can learn, I can use this situation
Mhm,
as a learning experience, even though people are mean to me, even
mhm.
though people are stabbing me in the back, even though my boss doesn't respect me, even though I'm on a performance improvement plan, I can still learn from this environment, from this situation, and I can take that to make myself a better human being. I don't
Mhm.
need to agree with how I'm being treated, but I can learn something from it. I can
Yes.
learn how to not treat people. I can
Mhm.
write a book on it. I can start my own company. I have to tell you, Candace, the number of people that have been on this show, episode 240 to 250, so many people have started their own company because they did not like the environment that they were in before. They sucked it up. They used their resources. They used their accountability partners. They just asked for help and they were able to create something beautiful and unique and different in which aligned with their culture. They created it. And I think that's probably one of the greatest takeaways that I'm learning from you with intentionality that you can create it. Maybe you're not creating a new job, but you're creating a new perspective on how to look at things. You're creating that change management. You're changing the strategic growth of your current role. Am I nailing it? Did I learn from you, Candice Gaddy?
Absolutely. Even back to health. Health is often a challenge for a lot of people. That's something that you don't get a choice on that. What I have found really the greatest growth opportunities is when life forces you to stop checking boxes and stop living in this place of comfort and really remove the lid to say, hey, that goes back to what I said in the very beginning of this podcast. Let's start experiencing life and not just living it. Living it is checking the boxes. Experiencing it is being agile to say, hey, I didn't plan to go down this road. I'm on this road now. How can I make the best of it? How can I better serve me and my community now that I'm on this road that I didn't plan to be on?
What wisdom. Oh my goodness gracious. Stop checking boxes. Live with intentionality, but
Mhm.
it's not a structure of checking boxes.
No,
Goodness, Candace, you're giving me goosebumps. I am so grateful that you spent some time with
thank
me, with our listeners. Every single conversation that I have for you, even if I'm watching you co-host the show, I'm learning from you. So thank you so much
thank you,
for
Bart. Yeah.
sharing up so many great ideas. Candice Gaddy, Gaddy, strategic growth architect,
Yeah.
founder of the ACE ecosystem, ACE for Growth, ACE, ACE, the number
Yes.
growth.com is
Yes.
the website. Last question in the last 30 seconds. How would you fill in the blank? Most people don't blank.
I say that most people don't realize that authentic growth starts with alignment and not with achievement. And so that goes back to them just trying to perform. Let's focus on the alignment first, and the results will follow, and they'll be authentic to you, and they won't be performative.
I'm so glad I'm recording this because I have a page of notes in my mind of things that I want to do as a result of what I learned from Candace today.
Thank you, Bart.
Thank you so much, and we'll be in touch and talk soon. You're the best.
Thank you. Have a blessed day.